The injury bug continues to do damage to the Detroit Tigers already. We're going to talk about now what center field is going to look like going forward and more all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome in, welcome all. We are just a couple of days away from opening day 2025 against the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'll talk about that a little bit more. We know who's going to be pitching for the Dodgers. We can kind of talk about what lineup we might see. We'll preview that series today because the next 2 days we'll be doing kind of bigger picture stuff as we head into the season. However, on Monday, the Tigers continue to receive bad news just over and over and over and over again. Wenceel Perez is now going to be out for at least a month. That seems like the earliest he will return is receiving an injection in his back. It's a lower back injury. And it sounds like until at least the end of April is kind of, the earliest that we can expect him back into the fold here. So, what does center field look like is now the question. We talked on yesterday's show about the Margot signing and how it's kind of makes sense from a platoon perspective, but going out and getting somebody to play center field, right before the regular season starts, the timing was kind of weird. Well, this brings a lot more clarity to that situation. Perez, I'm sure they knew about it when they were in contact with Margot, and now Margot seems to be the option. I mean, that's really, I guess, where we'll start with what is center field going to look like and what's the roster going to look like on opening day. Margot's deal was made official on Monday. It's a split deal. All that means is that he has a predetermined salary for when he's in the minor leagues or when he's in the major leagues. So it's not a, like one size fits all. They're expecting him to maybe get some playing time in the minors, and he will have a, different salary when he's in the minor leagues versus in the major league. So as far as I'm concerned, he's the center fielder. And when it comes to what does the rest of the roster look like, I think the clubhouse leader, no pun intended, is probably Malloy, Torkelson, and Margot now as the trio that all make it. But the organization has been very clear that they want to address center field internally. That was immediately, for media availability on Monday after the Margot signing was made official. All the beat writers got to talk to the front office and to Scott Harris a little bit about the construction and kind of putting all these puzzle pieces together as we find out more information. And when they announced that Perez was going to be out for a month, it really felt like they wanted to make it clear that if there was another solution or another player, it was going to come internally. And soon after that, we get word that Ryan Kreidler is back in camp and is now back on the major league camp. And that's kind of a reactionary measure, obviously, but he is no longer in minor league camp and is back with the major leaguers. I don't understand what having Kreidler and Margot both on the roster really accomplishes, other than you just literally have another body to play center field besides Margot. Like, that is really the only thing that accomplishes. And if that is all the organization wants to accomplish, if they want more than literally one human being to be able to play the position of center field, we'll get to Riley Green in a second, then I guess Kreidler accomplishes that. But outside of that, outside of just being able to say, I have two of these, you're not really accomplishing anything else. It's not a platoon. Kreidler is a righty that does not hit righties well whatsoever. Like, you would choose Margot in every situation if both of them were on the roster. There is not a single situation in which you would rather have Kreidler than Margot. Their skill sets overlap too much. And Ryan Kreidler's splits against right-handed pitching are brutal. And that's not to say that in his, short, small sample size at the major league level that they're brutal, even though they're not good. But I'm not even really counting or looking at his major league splits, because that's really just been below average all across the board. I'm talking about his minor league splits. In 2022, he hit under 200 against righties in the minor leagues. In 2023, he hit barely over 200 against right-handed pitching in the minor leagues. His batting average started with a 1 in AAA in 2024 against right-handed pitching in the minor leagues. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is not at least there's somewhat of a platoon here, or at least he's maybe remotely serviceable, or even just if the bar was better than Manuel Margot. You're not getting that. At least not in a marginal enough way where it's worth rostering both of them in my eyes. So I hate the fact that Margot now has to hit against righties and lefties. That is so devastating to me. And that this is super dramatic. I understand. I'm being overly dramatic. But there is no one that is healthy in the organization that is going to fix the fact that you don't have a center fielder that can hit right-handed pitching at the major league level. So rostering two righties that also can't hit righties doesn't just magically fix that problem. The only person that could is Riley Green. I know that some people have also brought up Jahmai Jones. First off, we'll get this out of the way immediately. Same thing. He's a righty that hits lefties well. So you're still not addressing who in this organization can hit right-handed pitching and play center field. On top of that, I'm not sure the organization is convinced he can play center field consistently on a day-to-day basis. And even if both of those things are true, he's not on the 40-man roster. You'd have to do some patchwork to get him there. And ultimately, would you rather have Jahmai Jones on the roster, or would you rather have Malloy / Torkelson, whoever ends up being the odd man out? So that brings us back to Riley Green. Let's talk about that, okay? Because I think that that's probably the most fascinating conversation left that we haven't already had here in segment one. And the organization really just seems to be digging their heels in on no. So we'll talk about that, kind of all the different angles here and what the solution is going to be and what center field is actually going to look like right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Just Ingredients. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters, and that's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients is an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all religiously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. And Just Ingredients has also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who does trust their NSF certified sports line to fuel his training recovery all the time. So there's so many cool things about them when they sent, me their box full of products to use and kind of try out. My roommate and I have had only positive things to say. I love that they prioritize their wholesome, nourishing ingredients without all of kind of the artificial junk. They're very big on advertising and highlighting that fact. So whether you're recovering after a workout or if you just need an energy boost throughout the day, their grass-fed whey protein and pre-workout delivers real results. Visit justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, you can follow just.ingredients on Instagram. Also got to talk to y'all about our friends over at Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all of my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you a full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app either. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget much smarter and save a lot more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, used to have like 3 or 4 different apps that all, told me different things about my finances. Now, kind of use Monarch Money just as the all-encompassing place to get all of my information. I can track my finances, track spending habits, and even plan long-term goals as well. Managing money with a partner is also smoother than ever. You can now track and share your personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off of your first year. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back tomorrow. I'm recording this before the Tigers even play their spring training game on Monday. We can fill a whole show with all the news that has come from the Tigers organization outside of that ball game, and tomorrow's show will kind of be putting a bow on spring training as a whole. So we'll just kind of talk about if there is anything huge that happens on tomorrow's show, and then season preview on Thursday for opening day. Talking a lot about how the roster is going to be constructed here. And one of the big questions with all of this drama in center field is, well, why not just have Riley Green play center field again? He's done it before. He's good there. He's more than serviceable, more than fine as a center fielder. Why not just put him back in center if you are now your 3 top center field options for opening day are all hurt? At what point do you throw Riley over there? Whether we like it or not, that's not happening. At this point, I mean, they have like doubled and tripled down on Riley Green is not going to play center field for the Detroit Tigers on a consistent basis. That doesn't mean if they need him to for a couple of innings for some platoon situations or whatnot. Like, he's not going to end the season with 0 innings in center field, I would imagine. However, the planning to play him for a prolonged period of time is not happening. Now, my counter to that is, in theory, this only has to be your solution until the end of April. And I guess the organization is that concerned about his health in center field and how he plays center field, to where even, the whatever you want to call it, 3 to 6 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks, whatever it ends up being, that those were weird numbers I picked, 3 to 6 and 4 to 5. Whatever it ends up being for all 3 of those guys, Parker, Vierling, and Perez, to be out. Apparently, they don't trust him enough to stay healthy, even to put him in there for just the month of April, which is wild to me. But it really sounds like they are not going to budge on that. Now, front offices lie. We know that, and that's something that we've talked about a lot on this show. Maybe he's just throwing people off, doesn't want to show his hand, whatever. We'll see what happens when the games are played. But if there was ever a time to get him prepared for it, it would be playing him in center field in spring training for a couple innings here and there, and he hasn't done that. So I believe them. So what is the solution for center field? And what is the solution for this roster? I think that they should just go with Malloy, Torkelson, and Margot. And those should be the last three roster spots that we've been debating and kind of arguing about over the last week or so. Ultimately, and this is, again, I'm reiterating this point kind of, but like ultimately, the reason why I'm okay with going Malloy, Tork, and Margot is because this realistically is only a 4-ish week problem. You just have to limp until Vierling or Perez are back. Once Wenceel Perez is back or once Matt Vierling is back, there's your center fielder until then Parker Meadows is back, which is then hopefully only about another month. We'll talk about that in a second. So I can live with 3 to 6 weeks. I don't know why that's my time frame here, but I can live with like the 4 to 6 weeks of Margot in center field if it means that Torkelson, Malloy, and Carpenter are all getting at bats and helping the offense because they hopefully are some of the best hitters on the team and some of the best run producers on the team. Now, in order to make room for Manuel Margot, Parker Meadows is put on the 60-day injured list. And I want to cry. I want to cry tears of sadness forever. So it sounds like the earliest he can come back now is now, I think Evan Woodbury said May 24th, but I think there were maybe conflicting reports. I think Cody Stavenhagen said May 27th. Either way, only a few days difference there, whoever's right. It sounds like the Tigers are going to be without Parker Meadows until the end of April, and even then is the earliest he can come back from the injured list. There's nothing that says he's not 100%, then he has to go from the 60-day to the 10-day or has to then have rehab stints in order to work his way back up to playing. At this point, I would be pretty surprised if we saw Parker Meadows before June. And honestly, like I'm so pessimistic about this whole situation right now, where if I rubbed a genie jar and a genie came out and was like, what's 3 wishes? One of them would be, I just want a promise and a guarantee that Parker Meadows does play in June even. Like that's how scared I am of this kind of slippery slope. Of, he's only going to be out for a little bit. Oh, well, we'll see, reevaluate in a couple of weeks. Oh, well, maybe he'll miss go on the 10-day and miss the first couple of series. Okay, well, he's out until the end of May. Okay, well, June is probably more realistic. I want it to stop. I just want, if someone could tell me that he is guaranteed to make his season debut in June, I would take it in a heartbeat and run and not even think twice. So I'm hoping that is the case. Let's talk about the Dodgers. The Tigers play baseball in just a couple of days. We'll talk about that series and more right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who is cutting down the net. I've got my eye on a few underdogs this year, and FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, so when I win, I get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, the Detroit Tigers play baseball, and we're limping to the starting line here. There's been the injuries, obviously, left and right, but there's still a lot of excitement happening. This is a really exciting, young, and talented starting pitching rotation. It's a bullpen that was really good last year and has most of the same faces, if not got better. There's still a lot to be desired offensively, and especially when you're 3-4 players down on opening day, that certainly isn't going to help anything either. But there's still some storylines of, Kerry Carpenter hopefully getting a full healthy season under his belt, Riley Green hopefully doing the same thing. Gleyber Torres, if he can get back to 800 plus OPS baseball, that's going to be a huge injection into this lineup. Torkelson and Malloy, have they figured it out and are going to be, run producers at the major league level? There's a lot to still be excited about here as we head into this opening series against the Dodgers that will be on ESPN. And something that I think is interesting, and this is something that Chris McCoskey, I know, brought up, and I'm sure others have as well, Chris McCoskey of the Detroit News. This is on ESPN. The Tigers are on ESPN to open the season, which is awesome. This might be the last ESPN opening series ever. We talked about it a few times over the offseason. The relationship between ESPN and Major League Baseball is very sour and looks like it's coming to an end. So the Tigers might get the last opening weekend series on ESPN that we will see for a while, or on opening day that we'll see for quite some time, which is kind of cool, kind of bittersweet. The Dodgers are going to throw Blake Snell on opening day against, obviously, Tarek Skubal. So the Tigers will be implementing a left-handed pitcher lineup immediately. And so that got me thinking about what a lefty lineup could look like. This is not a practice I like doing, or that we do very often at all on this show. But because the roster is still in flux a little bit, and there's a lot of questions in regards to the platoon and whatnot, I just want to kind of run down what a lefty pitching lineup could look like for the Tigers on opening day. I have Gleyber Torres leading off, Riley Green hitting 2, Torkelson DHing and hitting 3rd, Justin Henry Malloy playing right field, hitting cleanup, Andy Ibanez at 3rd base, hitting 5th, Colt Keith 6th, playing 1st, Manuel Margot hitting 7th in center field, Jake Rogers 8th behind the plate, obviously, and Javi Baez hitting 9th and playing shortstop. If it wasn't just inferred, Gleyber Torres and Riley Green playing second base and left field, obviously. Then Tarek Skubal, starting pitcher. That means your bench is Zach McKinstry, Dylan Dingler, Trey Sweeney, and Kerry Carpenter. So outside of Dingler, you got 4 lefties on the bench here, which gives you a lot of flexibility late in games if the Dodgers are to go to a right-handed reliever at any point. You can just kind of empty the clip, and Sweeney can play a couple different positions, but you can use him obviously at shortstop to replace Baez. McKinstry can play anywhere, although obviously, not a guarantee that he's going to produce offensively. And then Kerry Carpenter would be your first option if a righty comes into the game at any point. You just figure out how to make that work. Now, this is where things can get kind of interesting with only having one center fielder that doesn't hit righties well, because let's say that a righty comes into the game and Margot is due up. Do you pinch hit Carpenter for him still? Do you still just go, you know what, we got to get our best hitter out there? Okay, well then who's playing center field after that? Rogers, don't have a lefty catcher. Now you can go Carpenter and then just put Dingler in the game. And then if Baez comes up, obviously you just throw Sweeney. But that bottom half of that lineup is weird in that sense. So maybe there's some juggling around with Hinch and what he wants to do in that situation to maybe prevent that long string of inopportunities, a lack of opportunities to put Kerry Carpenter in the lineup card. I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts here. This is also like we have barely seen the same lineup 2 games in a row, like in AJ Hinch's entire tenure. So it's almost a pointless exercise to be like, oh yeah, against lefties, this is what this will look like all year. No, it's going to get juggled and mixed up a billion times. So if you're like, hey, you're stupid, this is what the lineup's going to look like, I'm sure we're both right at some point this season. Really cool that you have 2 Cy Young winners going up against each other on opening day. I believe MLB.com said that is the only such matchup of the season, at least reported right now, where 2 former Cy Young winners will be facing off against each other. So that's kind of cool. The Tigers are going to be the talk of opening day. Obviously, the Dodgers are big market. As far as like a preview, I mean, they're really good, man. I don't know if you're aware. Their payroll is about $400 million. They're pretty darn good and have really good hitters up and down the lineup. They have a rotation full of elite starting pitching. They have a bunch of dogs in the bullpen. They are really good. They are the World Series favorites, and it is going to be a tall task to go against them. Now, if there is anyone that I want on the mound going up against that Dodgers lineup, you bet your bottom dollar it is going to be Tarek Skubal. So hopefully that can maybe help us steal a game here and there, at least opening day. And then we'll see how the rest of it plays out. Obviously, it sounds like Flaherty, kind of a revenge game maybe, and then Olsen would get game 3. The only other thing is just that, like, I ask you, do you think the final roster is set? Outside of one spot in the bullpen. That, like, is Chafin ready, or would we rather go Hannafy or, Herder or, really any of those kind of relievers that are in the mix there, I think is really the only question. And that's just because, again, is Chafin's arm, like, ready for major league pitching? Outside of that, I think there's an argument that it is. Now, there's still a chance of Ryan Kreidler being on the roster. There's still a chance of an external addition or we talked about this yesterday, a pre-opening day waiver wire pickup, because a lot of players go on waivers right before opening day. So there's still some opportunities to add someone externally, but I think there's a real chance that the starting rotation is set. They go with Margot, Malloy, and Torkelson for those last spots on the on the offensive side of things, and we're just waiting to see whether the last bullpen arm is ready to go on opening day. All right, we'll kind of put a bow on spring training tomorrow, take a look ahead, and then Thursday we will give a season preview. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back tomorrow. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope, and I will catch you all then. Go Tigers, baby.